Okay, so what I want to show you guys is what we call our sell work bill workflow. And essentially what we, as a sort of omni-channel work system, we integrate with what we call both sides of the equation. So what we can do is ingest and intake data that's happening, outside to get business in. So the selling part, so marketing, sales, etc. And then we also can fluidly send data out to ERP systems and billing and finance and so forth. So in this case, what I want to show you really quickly is that you're looking at an order screen in Salesforce, and I've added a few products that are just some random, things that I've invented. And basically, when I'm ready to go ahead and send this order to PI as not a sales order, but a work order, because what we want to do is take these line items and send them into PI as the basis for creating the work that has to be done against those particular items. Okay. So if it's services or products or whatever, you can either ad hoc generate the project plans in real time, or leverage templates and things on the other side. So if you're, continually selling websites or, whatever, you can have a template on PI that basically becomes what your work order is. So let me just sort of back up and just go high level again. So I'm at Salesforce, and I'm going to take this order and I'm going to send it to PI. So I just simply click the send to PI button, and I can pick what company I want to create it to. And then I can also assign it to whomever's in PI so that they can take a look at this particular work order. And what happens is that sales order becomes what we call in our system a proposal. And we have a dedicated homepage for proposals that allow people to basically run the different types of workflows that are in your company. So if you're like the buying manager or whatever, you might just have access to this one area on the system. So we can represent that as folders. We also have home pages here at the My Insight menu. So what I sent over was this order 001. It's assigned to the Williams company. Here's the deal ID from that particular situation. If I go inside of the proposals, and Margaret can probably do a little better job in explaining proposals if you have additional questions. But what the proposal does is it's sort of the preamble to creating the project. So people can say, okay, these are the items. It's going to get an approval. I can add specific time and expenses, and when whatever terms and conditions, it's sort of the contract, if you will, for the project. If that's okay, if everything's good, you sign it to the person that you want it to go to, you can go ahead and create the project. And what that does is it just simply puts you into our project creation workflow, and you can create whatever names. You can create the project from a template. So you might have some existing, again, some specific things that are tied to certain processes that are external. Again, we want to be able to place that wherever it's most convenient in the hierarchy, and so on and so forth. You can add resources, project managers. So this is where you're creating all that stuff right on the fly. When I go ahead and click save, what that does is, and this is what's really fantastic, is if you recall the products that were in that order come over as line items, as tasks already pre-planned in the project. So they can either be what you have as an order item, or they can be the things in that proposal screen, or both, right? So, or thirdly, you can be all the things that come from the template. So it gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of generating the work that happens from generating the sale in the first place. So let's say I'm working this project, and I've added time to it, and I've done all my different things the way I would normally, have a project behave, and my resource allocations, etc. When I'm ready to do a billing, all I do is go to my invoice and records proposal area on my project. And from here, I can see what proposals are in place for this particular project. and what invoice records I'm going to generate to actually compare. So what's really nice is you get three views, and you'll see this more in a second. But you have your proposed view, which is coming in from Salesforce. You have the work and the billable that's actually been done, and then you have your invoice, right? So it gives you the ability to create some project financing before you even send it over to an ERP to see how things are going. Now, in the case of a lot of companies, you have the need to do partial billings or ongoing timely billings. So I can say, all right, well, from this invoice, I want to reference the actual proposal from the sales order that came over. I want to create an invoice record that basically has all the information that came over from it. But I want to, instead of just charging $999 for this particular item, I want to do, let's say, half of that, right? So I want to do $500. Okay, and so I can go ahead and override that particular item because I want to get half of it now. And for this particular item, same thing. I want to get, let's say, $800 of that. And I can say for this particular setup process, that's a service generated thing that's using 3 hours of my time, I'm only going to bill for 1.5 of that right now. And so what that does is in that invoice record, I now have an amount that I can say, oh, okay, against the 2,500 or so that came over from the order, I'm now going to bill for $1,525. So I'm going to send this to QBO. I've already mapped it to a company, but the first screen that precedes this lets you pick the company that you want to associate inside of QuickBooks. I can now map this particular line item to a QBO code or product service. So these are just some random codes that may make sense or not, but I'm just going to go ahead and pick a few. And then basically once I've set that up, this relationship is automatically mapped for future. You can go in and change it in the preferences and the settings, etc. And so when I go ahead and send it off, it's going to go. And basically you can see up here at the top of my invoice record, I have a QBO invoice number and I have what was sent over. Now, if I go into QuickBooks, let's say you have the accounting team, they don't have any access to Salesforce, and they don't have any access to Project Insight. All they care about is what's coming into the finance aspect, the bookkeeper, if you will, of the company. So if I go and I refresh this page that I'm already on, which is the invoices, you're going to see, what was it, 1059, and at the top of my invoice list is 1059. So if I open up 1059, you'll see here that it's got all the line items and the product service codes with the given rates and things like that. And once it's here, you know, QuickBooks takes over, right? If you're going to email it, you're going to print it, you're going to do whatever, and so on and so forth.